The galaxy was burning again, ships exploding like dying stars across the black sea of space. Among the chaos drifted a small human repair vessel, damaged, powerless, and alone. Inside it sat Ethan Cole, a human engineer from the Terran frontier, trying to restart his systems. He had been helping a transport fleet when the alien war erupted out of nowhere. Now he was trapped between two massive empires fighting for control of the void. Ethan checked his oxygen meter. Only a few hours left. Great, he whispered to himself. Alone, lost, and probably the only human for 100 light years. He looked through the cracked glass of his cockpit and saw something shining in the darkness. At first he thought it was debris, but then he saw the shape. A large alien battleship, torn in half. Its hull glowed faintly green, like liquid emerald under starlight. Without thinking, Ethan activated his emergency thrusters and guided his broken ship closer. The closer he got, the stronger the light became, pulsing slowly like a heartbeat. The scanners failed to read the energy signature. It wasn't like any alien technology he had seen before. As he docked near a torn airlock, his hands shook, part fear, part curiosity. When he stepped inside, the corridors were silent except for faint crackling sounds. The walls were covered with strange symbols glowing softly. He saw lifeless alien soldiers scattered everywhere, their armor blackened from plasma fire. They looked humanoid but taller, their skin pale with faint silver veins. Ethan felt a strange chill run through his spine. Then he heard it, a weak voice echoing through the corridor. A cry, faint but full of pain. Ethan followed the sound through the twisted metal until he reached the command chamber. There she was, a woman unlike any he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered like moonlight, her hair floated weightlessly, glowing blue at the ends. And across her abdomen ran a deep wound, glowing faint green as if poisoned by energy. Ethan knelt beside her. Her armor was half melted, her breathing shallow. He could see strange patterns moving under her skin, like light flowing through veins. Hey, it's okay. I'm here to help, he said softly, not sure if she could understand. Her silver eyes opened slowly and fixed on him. For a moment, Ethan forgot how to breathe. She whispered something in a language he didn't know. Then her eyes rolled back, and she fell still. Ethan checked his medkit, all human equipment. The scanner blinked red, unable to read her biology. Damn it, come on, he muttered, hitting the buttons. No data, no match, nothing. He looked at her wound again, thick liquid like molten crystal dripping out. If he did nothing, she would die. He thought fast. Her armor had strange tubes connected to a fluid pack. He opened one and used it to wash the wound. It reacted violently, hissing as smoke rose. Ethan quickly mixed human medical gel with the alien fluid, hoping it wouldn't kill her. Then, without any tools left, he did the only thing he could. He pressed his bare hands over the wound. He could feel the warmth, the vibration, almost like her body was humming. His palms burned, but he didn't move. Slowly, the glow under his hands began to change color, from green to silver. The bleeding stopped, the air filled with a strange humming tone. The ship's lights flickered, then stabilized. Ethan gasped and pulled his hands away. Her breathing steadied. The wound started closing before his eyes. It wasn't possible, not by science or logic. He backed away, staring at her, half terrified and half amazed. He felt energy tingling through his arms. Whatever he had touched had changed something inside him. The alien woman stirred again, her silver eyes opening wider this time. She looked at him with a mixture of shock and disbelief. Her voice was weak but sharp. Human, you touched the queen. Ethan blinked, confused. Queen? Wait, what? Before he could finish, she grabbed his wrist with surprising strength. Her fingers cold and strong, her eyes glowing faintly brighter. Her lips trembled as she whispered, You touched the sacred flesh of the crown. That bond cannot be undone. Ethan froze, not understanding. He tried to pull back, but she wouldn't let go. Then suddenly her eyes rolled back again, and she collapsed, unconscious. The glow from her wound faded, and silence filled the chamber. For a long moment, Ethan just sat there, breathing hard. He didn't know who she was, or what sacred meant in her world. But he knew one thing. He had saved her life. And somehow, he could feel her heartbeat still echoing faintly inside his chest. Outside the shattered windows, the alien stars shimmered like distant watchers. The war had ended. The silence of space returned. But something new had begun, a connection neither human nor alien could ever explain. And deep in the shadows of the dead ship, a faint voice spoke through the static. The Queen lives, and she has chosen a human. The alien Queen, Lasara, awoke in silence. Her vision blurred, her mind flickering between pain and confusion. The hum of machines surrounded her, and for a brief moment, she thought she was still dreaming. Then she saw him, the human, sitting beside her, exhausted, his hands still covered in faint silver light. The sight made her heart twist in disbelief. She tried to sit up, but her body resisted. Every movement sent a wave of weakness through her. The human quickly moved closer. "Easy, don't move too much, you're still healing," he said. His voice was calm, soft, almost gentle, something she wasn't used to hearing in her world of commands and battles. Lasara's eyes narrowed, her regal instincts returning. "You touched me," she whispered, her tone both sharp and trembling. Ethan blinked, confused. "Yeah, you were dying. I had to." "Silence," she cut him off, her silver eyes burning now. "In my world, only one may touch the Queen's flesh, only one bound by the sacred vow." Ethan frowned, trying to understand. He had heard of alien customs, but never imagined something like this. "I didn't mean any disrespect," he said. "I just wanted to save you." Her gaze softened slightly, but not enough to hide the storm inside her. "Then you do not know what you have done, human," she murmured, almost to herself. Suddenly, the door of the chamber hissed open. Alien soldiers rushed in, tall, armored figures with glowing visors and energy spears. They surrounded Ethan instantly, their weapons aimed at his chest. One of them shouted in their language, and another aimed to strike. But Lasara raised her hand weakly, her voice commanding despite her frailty. "Stop," she said, and every soldier froze. The commander stepped forward, his armor marked with crimson runes. "My queen, the human defiled the sacred law. He must be executed," he growled. Ethan tensed, realizing just how bad the situation had become. He could see the fury in their faces, not anger of war, but of insult to their culture. Before he could speak, Lasara's voice cut through the air. "He is under my protection," she declared, her tone cold and absolute. The soldiers looked at each other, uncertain. The commander bowed slightly. "As you command, my queen, but the council must be informed." Lasara's expression did not change. "Inform them. But until I recover, he remains under royal guard." Ethan couldn't believe it. One moment he was saving her life, and now he was a prisoner. The soldiers grabbed his arms roughly and let him out. He glanced back, and for a brief second, their eyes met again. Hers full of conflict, his full of confusion. Hours later, Ethan found himself locked inside a crystal chamber. Strange blue energy flowed around the walls, humming softly. He sat there, staring at his hands. They still faintly glowed silver. "What the hell did I do?" he whispered. His mind replayed every second. The wound, the touch, the glow. Something had happened between them, something that neither science nor reason could explain. Meanwhile, Lasara sat in her chamber, the royal healers attending to her. But her thoughts were far away. She could still feel his warmth, his touch, not like pain, but like something living inside her. Her hand trembled as she lifted it, seeing faint human fingerprints glowing softly on her skin. "This cannot be," she whispered. Her chief advisor entered, bowing deeply. "My queen," word spreads across the fleet. "They say a human has bonded with you." Lasara's eyes turned cold. "Let them speak, but tell them nothing of truth." "Not yet." As night fell across the alien capital ship, lights flickering against the void, Ethan lay awake, staring at the stars beyond the transparent ceiling of his cell. He thought of home, Earth, his family, the laughter, the warmth. Everything felt so distant now. And somewhere in the distance, deep in the heart of the alien flagship, a queen lay awake too, her heart beating in rhythm with his, though she didn't understand why. The next morning, soldiers escorted Ethan to a vast hall of crystal and gold. Alien banners hung from the ceiling, each marked with symbols that shimmered like fire. In the center sat the High Council, their faces hidden behind silver masks. Lysara entered last, tall and radiant despite her injuries, her armor shining again. When she looked at him, 1,000 emotions flickered across her face: pride, confusion, fear, and something unspoken. The eldest counselor spoke in a deep voice that echoed through the hall. "Human Ethan Cole, you have touched the flesh of the Queen, the sacred vessel of Zellara." Ethan swallowed hard. "I didn't know your customs. I just wanted to help." The counselor's voice thundered. "Ignorance is no excuse. You have bound yourself to her soul." Gasps filled the hall, and Ethan felt a cold wave of dread wash over him. "What does that mean?" he asked quietly. Lysara stood then, her voice trembling but steady. "It means," she said, "you are now tied to me, by life, by law, and by fate." The chamber fell into stunned silence. Ethan stared at her, trying to understand what she meant. And Lysara, the Queen of Zellara, looked back at him, the human who had saved her life, knowing that nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again. The chamber of the High Council shimmered like liquid light. Columns of energy pulsed with each heartbeat inside the hall, casting shifting colors across the alien elders' faces. Ethan stood there, surrounded by guards, his hands bound in glowing cuffs. The atmosphere was heavy, the silence almost sacred. Before him, the alien Queen Lysara stood tall, though her pale skin still carried the faint glow of healing. The eldest counselor raised his staff, his voice echoing through the chamber. "Human Ethan Cole, by your touch, the royal bond has been sealed." Ethan frowned. "I told you, I didn't mean to." The counselor interrupted him sharply. "Intent is meaningless before the law of bonding." He turned to Lysara. "My queen, you know what this means. His life is now tied to yours, his fate bound to the crown of Zellara." The queen's eyes lowered for a moment, her voice quiet but steady. "I know," she said, "and yet he saved me when even my guards failed." The counselor's tone darkened. "That does not change what he is, an outsider, a contamination of the royal line." The crowd murmured, whispers rippling through the hall like wind through fire. Ethan clenched his fists. "I don't even know what this bond is," he said. "I just wanted to help." Lysara's eyes met his, soft for a heartbeat, then filled with the weight of centuries of law. She stepped forward, her voice calm but filled with sorrow. "The law of bonding," she began, "is older than our empire itself. When one touches the flesh of the crown with intent of healing or protection, the energies of the royal blood choose whether to accept or reject. If accepted, a spiritual thread is woven between the hearts of both souls. They feel each other's pain, their strength, their emotions. And once woven, it cannot be broken, not by force, not by death." Ethan's breath caught, his voice barely a whisper. "You mean, we're connected?" "Yes," Lysara said softly. "You saved me, and in doing so, you became part of me." The hall erupted in chaos, voices shouting, elders rising. "Unacceptable," one cried. "A human bonded to our queen will bring ruin," another shouted. Lysara raised her hand, and silence fell again. "Enough," she commanded, her tone like thunder wrapped in silk. She turned to Ethan again. "You must understand, human, this bond is sacred and dangerous. If either of us dies, the other will feel it," she said. "Your existence is now entwined with mine." Ethan blinked, his heart pounding. "That sounds like a curse," he muttered. The queen looked away. "Some call it that," she said quietly. "Others call it destiny." The council deliberated for hours, their voices echoing through the corridors of the palace. Ethan was kept under guard in a crystal chamber, the same one where he had first awakened after saving her. He paced restlessly, trying to make sense of everything. Through the wall, he could see the alien skyline, towers floating in the air, bridges of light, and ships moving like living creatures through the mist. It was beautiful, but he felt like a prisoner in paradise. Suddenly, the doors opened, and Lysara entered alone, her cloak trailing like starlight. Ethan turned toward her, still uncertain how to speak. She studied him silently for a moment before saying, "The council has decided your fate." Ethan tensed. "Let me guess. Execution." Her lips curved faintly, not quite a smile. "Almost," she said. "They offer you two choices." He swallowed. "Go on." "One," she said. "You may choose death, and the bond will end with your final breath. Or 2. You accept the bond fully, as tradition demands, and become part of the royal line. Ethan stared at her, stunned. You mean? Yes, she said, her silver eyes glowing faintly. You would become my consort, my mate. The word hung in the air like lightning. Ethan took a step back. That's insane, he said. I'm human. I don't belong here. Lysara's expression didn't change, but her voice softened. Neither did I, once, she said. I was born to lead a war I never wanted, to carry a crown I did not choose. She looked away, her voice breaking slightly. And then you came, a stranger, reckless, foolish, but brave enough to touch death to save another. For the first time, Ethan saw not the queen, but the woman beneath the crown. She looked lonely, despite all her power. He took a slow breath. If I say yes, he asked, what happens next? Then, she said quietly, our bond becomes eternal, through fire, through war, through life and death. You will be bound to me, and to this world. Ethan hesitated, his thoughts spinning. One choice meant death, the other meant losing everything human about him. He looked into her silver eyes and saw not alien royalty, but someone fighting against destiny. Finally, he nodded slowly. If this keeps you alive, I'll do it, he said, his voice firm but gentle. Her gaze softened, a flicker of light crossing her face. Then it is done, she whispered. The ground beneath them began to glow. Symbols of light encircled their feet, spiraling upward like ribbons of fire. Ethan felt warmth spreading through his chest, the same feeling from when he healed her. Lysara raised her hand, touching his heart gently. A flash of energy filled the hall, blinding and pure. In that instant, their hearts beat as one, their souls intertwined by the law of bonding. When the light faded, the queen stood taller, her crown shining brighter than before. Ethan fell to his knees, breathless, feeling her heartbeat echo inside him. The council bowed in silence, acknowledging the ancient law had spoken, and as the stars shimmered beyond the palace dome, Lysara looked down at him and whispered, Welcome to eternity, my human. The great hall of Zellara was silent. Light still shimmered in the air from the ancient bonding ritual. Ethan knelt on the crystal floor, the glow fading slowly from his hands. Across from him stood the alien queen, Lysara, her silver eyes calm, yet filled with something new, warmth. For the first time since the war began, she looked less like a ruler and more like a woman. The council of elders bowed their heads, the sacred symbols on their robes burning faintly with approval. The law has chosen, one of them whispered. The bond is complete. Ethan stood slowly, his legs trembling, feeling the strange pull in his chest, her heartbeat echoing softly within him. Lysara approached, her armor now changed by the bond's energy, lines of light tracing across it like living veins. She looked at him, and for a long moment, said nothing. Then she whispered, You are not just a human anymore, Ethan Cole. You are now of royal blood. The words hit him harder than any weapon. Royal blood, the same blood that had ruled 1,000 worlds. And somehow, it now flowed through him too. He looked at his hands, faint threads of silver pulsing under his skin. What did you do to me? He asked quietly. Lysara's lips curved faintly. I didn't, she said. We did. Later, when the ceremony ended, they were escorted through the city of Zellara. The streets were alive with glowing rivers of light and floating platforms. Everywhere Ethan looked, alien citizens knelt, bowing as their queen passed. But he noticed their eyes, some filled with respect, others with anger. Whispers followed him like shadows. The human consort, they said, the queen's strange mate. In the royal gardens, where crystal trees grew under floating moons, Lysara finally spoke again. I know you didn't ask for this, she said, her voice soft, but neither did I. Ethan nodded. Yeah, I'm kind of getting used to that, he said with a tired laugh. For a moment, her lips curved slightly, the smallest, rarest smile in the galaxy. They sat beneath a glowing tree whose leaves shimmered like glass. The silence between them was not cold anymore, but heavy with unspoken thoughts. After a long while, Ethan turned to her. So, what happens now? She looked toward the stars above, their reflections dancing across her eyes. Now, she said, we learn to survive each other. He chuckled softly. You say that like it's a threat. She didn't smile this time. It is, she said, her tone serious again. Our bond connects more than just flesh, human. It connects will, emotion, power. If one of us falls, the other feels it. That night, in the royal chambers, Ethan dreamed, visions of her memories flooding his mind. He saw her childhood, her coronation, her endless loneliness among stars. He saw battles, betrayals, faces that looked to her for strength. And then, he saw himself, the moment he healed her, seen through her eyes. The warmth she felt, the shock, the fear, and the strange peace that followed. He woke up gasping, realizing she had seen him too. Lasara stood at the edge of the balcony, watching the twin moons rise. I felt your dream, she said quietly. You saw mine. Ethan rubbed his eyes. So that's what it means to be bonded. Yes, she said. We share more than blood now. We share memory, pain, and thought. Days passed, and word of the human mate spread through every corner of the empire. Some called it prophecy, others called it blasphemy. In the throne room, Lasara faced her council again. One elder shouted, He must not remain here. The people will turn against you. Lasara's voice was sharp. Then let them try. Another added, He is a threat to our purity. Ethan, standing beside her, said nothing, but his eyes held quiet strength. I may not be one of you, he said finally, but I didn't come here to rule your people, only to keep her alive. Lasara looked at him then, her expression unreadable, but something in her gaze softened again. After the meeting, she walked beside him through the echoing halls. Why did you say that? She asked. You could have claimed power. Ethan shrugged. Because I don't want power, I just want peace. Her steps slowed, and she looked at him deeply. Peace is the one thing we have never known. For a moment, her hand brushed his. Only for a second, but the energy between them pulsed like lightning. Their connection deepened, unseen threads weaving tighter. And for the first time, Lasara wondered if fate had not punished her, but perhaps chosen her. That night, the stars over Zellara burned brighter than usual. A cosmic storm shimmered on the horizon, energy waves curling like auroras. Lasara stood by the balcony again, her silver hair glowing under the light. Ethan joined her, silent, his eyes reflecting the same stars. He said softly, When I touched your wand, I didn't think about rules. I just thought about saving someone. She turned to him, her expression unreadable. In my world, she said, no one touches the queen and lives. He smiled faintly. Guess I'm bad at following royal rules. Her lips curved again, this time into something real. And perhaps, she said, that's exactly what this empire needs. As the twin moons rose higher, the bond between them pulsed stronger than before. A warmth spread through both their hearts, not love yet, but something that felt dangerously close. In that moment, as light bathed the alien world, Lasara whispered to herself, The human mate may yet save us all. The palace of Zellara shimmered under the morning light. Its walls reflected a calm sky, but inside, storms brewed unseen. Ethan had grown used to the alien halls, their shifting lights and silent corridors. Yet today, something felt different, a tension in the air that made his skin prickle. Lasara had been distant since the council's last gathering. She spent long hours in the war chamber, speaking in hushed tones with her generals. Rumors had begun to spread through the empire, whispers of rebellion, of betrayal. And in every whisper, one name repeated like poison, the human mate. Ethan walked through the garden of glass trees. He tried to find peace there, but even the shimmering leaves seemed restless. A small drone hovered near him, its crystal eye blinking red. He frowned and waved it away, but before it flew off, he caught the symbol carved on its side. The crest of the royal guard. Someone was watching him. Later that night, as the twin moons rose high above the city, Ethan heard footsteps outside his chamber, soft but hurried. He opened the door just in time to see a shadow disappear around the corner. Then, a flash, a spark, and pain seared through his shoulder. A blade of plasma had been thrown from the darkness, grazing him. He stumbled back, clutching his wound. The guards rushed in seconds later, their armor gleaming with blue light. But the attacker had vanished. Lasara arrived moments after, her silver eyes blazing like molten light. She saw the blood on his arm and froze. Then her voice trembled with fury. Who did this? Ethan shook his head. Didn't see the face. Only your guard's mark on the drone. The chamber fell silent. Lysara's gaze darkened. Someone within the royal ranks dared this. She turned to her captain. Find them, alive or dead. That night, she stayed beside him. Ethan sat on the edge of the bed, watching her quietly as she pressed a glowing cloth to his wound. You don't have to do that, he said softly. Her voice was calm but distant. Our bond means I feel your pain. If you bleed, I bleed. He smiled faintly. Guess that means I should try harder not to get stabbed. Her lips almost curved, but sadness lingered in her eyes. As the night deepened, Lysara stood by the balcony. She whispered something to the stars, words in her native tongue, a prayer or a warning. Ethan heard only fragments: loyalty, betrayal, fate. He wanted to ask, but her expression stopped him. She looked fragile under the moonlight, like a queen carrying the weight of a dying empire. The next morning, the palace trembled with tension. The assassin had been found, a high-ranking officer from Lysara's own council. They dragged him before the throne, chains glowing red-hot. Lysara's eyes were cold as glass. Why? She asked. Why betray your queen? The alien bowed his head. Because you betrayed us first. By bonding with that creature, he spat, looking toward Ethan. Ethan's hands clenched, but he stayed silent. The court gasped, the guard stiffened. Lysara's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. You dare insult my maid in my hall. The traitor laughed bitterly. Your bond weakens the throne. The people whisper of impurity, of blasphemy. He looked up with defiance. You've doomed us all, your majesty. Before Lysara could respond, he raised his hands, and light exploded. A hidden device beneath his armor ignited, blinding energy flooding the chamber. Ethan reacted instantly, tackling Lysara to the ground as the blast tore through the room. Flames and shards of crystal filled the air, guards shouting in chaos. When the smoke cleared, Ethan was bleeding again, badly this time. Lysara hovered over him, her hands shaking. Her voice broke. You fool, why would you protect me? He smiled weakly. Because that's what humans do. She pressed her palms to his chest, glowing silver threads forming between her fingers. Her energy poured into him, the same strange warmth from before. The wound sealed slowly, but tears shimmered in her eyes. Their bond pulsed violently, as if the universe itself had felt the impact. Later, as medics cleared the bodies and smoke, Lysara stood over the shattered throne. The hall smelled of ash and ozone. She turned to Ethan, her voice colder than the stars. They will not stop, she said. You've become their symbol of rebellion. He frowned. Then let's end this before it spreads. She looked at him, the human she never meant to bond with. And for the first time, she didn't see weakness. She saw defiance, strength, and fire. The council reconvened in secret, plotting, whispering, choosing sides. Lysara knew that the next move would decide the fate of the empire. War was coming, not between humans and aliens, but within her own world. She stood by the shattered throne, light from the rising suns cutting across her armor. Let them come, she whispered, her voice a vow. They will learn what it means to threaten my mate. And somewhere deep inside Ethan's heart, he felt her rage burn within him too. Their bond pulsed again, brighter, stronger, as if preparing for something greater. The queen and her human were no longer just bonded by accident. They were bound by fire, by choice, and by the war that was about to begin. The world of Zellara was no longer silent. From the towers of the capital to the edges of the empire, rebellion spread like fire through dry stars. Everywhere the name of the human mate was whispered, some with awe, others with hate. The bond that had once saved a queen was now tearing a galaxy apart. Ethan stood beside Queen Lysara on the balcony of the royal citadel. Below them, the great army gathered, thousands of soldiers in glowing armor. Warships rose into the crimson sky, engines roaring like storms. Lysara's expression was calm, but Ethan could feel the tremor in her heart through their bond. Her people had turned against her, but she refused to step down. And beside her, the human who had healed her now stood ready to fight for her. You don't have to be part of this, she said softly. Ethan shook his head, his voice firm. You said our bond can't be broken, right? Then I'll fight as long as you stand. Her silver eyes glimmered, a flicker of pride and sorrow within them. You speak like a warrior, human, she whispered. He smiled faintly. No, just someone who won't run away. The rebellion struck first, fleets of crimson and black descending through the clouds. Explosions painted the sky with fire and silver light. Lysara raised her hand, summoning energy blades that shimmered like stars. Her guards formed around her, their wings of light unfolding. Ethan followed, wearing alien armor fused with human tech, forged from both worlds. The battle had begun. The ground shook as plasma bolts ripped through the air. Ethan fired his blaster, cutting through enemy lines. Every time he took a hit, he felt her pain echo faintly in his chest. And every time she was struck, he stumbled too, the bond connecting their every heartbeat. Still, they fought on, two souls against an empire divided. From the sky, the rebel commander's voice thundered through the comms. Queen Lysara has fallen to human corruption. Her rule ends tonight. The soldiers roared in reply, their voices full of rage and blind faith. Lysara lifted her blade, her voice cutting through the noise. Then come and see if a queen of Zellara can still bleed. The air burned with fire, ships collided, towers crumbled. Ethan and Lysara fought back to back, moving as one. When she struck, he covered her. When he stumbled, she shielded him. They were no longer two beings. They were one force. Her strength was his courage was hers. The bond pulsed with power, brighter than before. But the rebels were endless. The palace walls began to collapse, crystal shards raining from the ceiling. Ethan turned, panting. There are too many. We have to fall back. Lysara shook her head. A queen does not run. Then, in a single moment, Ethan saw it. A shadow moving above. A sniper on the tower, weapon glowing with red light. Without thinking, he pushed Lysara aside and took the hit himself. The plasma bolt tore through his armor, searing his chest. He fell to the ground, the world spinning around him. Lysara screamed, a sound that shook the palace walls. She dropped to her knees, cradling him, tears glowing silver as they fell on his armor. Ethan, she whispered, you foolish human. Her hands pressed against his wound, glowing with fierce energy. But this time, the healing did not work. Their bond flickered like a dying flame. Don't you dare leave me, she whispered, her voice breaking. He smiled weakly, blood on his lips. Didn't plan to, Your Majesty. She let out a shaky laugh, her tears falling faster. Around them, the battle still raged, but she heard none of it. Only his fading heartbeat, and her own breaking inside her chest. Then, a sudden surge of energy filled the air. The bond ignited, threads of silver and blue wrapping around them both. Lysara gasped as their hearts aligned completely. Her power flowed through him, his pain flowed through her. Together, they became a storm of light. The soldiers stopped fighting, staring as the queen and her human rose into the air, their bodies surrounded by a blinding aura. Ethan opened his eyes again. The wound was gone, replaced by the mark of the royal crest burning across his chest. Lysara stood beside him, her hand in his. Her voice echoed through every mind on the battlefield. You call him corruption, she said, but he is proof that purity means nothing without mercy. Her eyes blazed like suns, and mercy is what makes us strong. The rebels hesitated, their weapons lowering. The storm of light faded slowly, leaving silence in its wake. Ethan looked around, breathing heavily. You did it, he whispered. Lysara shook her head softly. No, she said. We did it. But in that silence, both knew it wasn't over. Far away, across the stars, powerful forces had seen what happened, and they would not forgive it. Still, for the first time, the people of Zellara bowed not in fear, but in awe. They had seen a queen bleed, and a human rise beside her. A legend had begun, born in blood and light. And as the sons of Zellara rose again, Ethan turned to her. What now? He asked quietly. She smiled faintly. Now we face the stars together. The war was over, but the scars of fire still glowed across the skies of Zellara. The twin suns rose behind the ruined citadel, casting gold light on shattered towers and broken ships. Where armies once clashed, silence now ruled. And in the center of it all stood two figures, the alien queen and her human mate, hand in hand, surrounded by the dawn. Ethan gazed over the horizon, his armor scorched, his breath shallow. He had fought through nightmares and lived through legends. Yet the quiet after battle felt heavier than war itself. Beside him, Queen Lysara stood tall, her silver hair flowing in the morning wind, her crown cracked but still shining. The bond between them pulsed faintly, soft and steady like a shared heartbeat. The soldiers of both sides knelt before her. For the first time in history, the rebels and loyalists bowed together, not to power, but to peace. Lysara raised her hand, the light around her fingers glowing gentle, not fierce. "My people," she said, her voice echoing across the plains. "You called me pure, you called me sacred, yet I was blind." She looked at Ethan, her gaze softening. "This human taught me that strength does not live in blood or law. It lives in compassion." Her words rippled through the air like waves of warmth. Ethan felt the emotion in her voice touch every heart around them. He didn't speak, he didn't need to. Their bond carried his feelings to her, his pride, his exhaustion, his quiet love. And she smiled, a real, human smile, something her people had never seen before. Then Lysara turned toward the broken throne lying among the ruins. She stepped forward and lifted its shattered crest, the symbol of generations of rule. The metal was twisted, the gemstones dull, but she held it high. "From this day," she said, "there will be no throne, no crown that divides us." She let the crest fall, shattering it upon the marble floor. Gasps filled the air, but no one dared speak. Ethan took a deep breath, his voice rough. "You're giving up your title." Lysara looked at him, her eyes gleaming. "No," she said softly. "I'm giving it meaning." She reached for his hand and placed it over her heart. "In my world, this gesture means unity," she whispered. "In yours, I believe it means trust." He nodded slowly, his hand trembling slightly. "Then trust it is," he said, his words barely a whisper. Above them, the sky shifted, clouds parted, revealing a glowing ring of light circling the planet. Energy from their bond pulsed into the heavens, forming a halo across the stars. The universe itself seemed to acknowledge their vow. Lysara's voice grew strong again, carried by the winds. "I, Lysara of Zellara, vow that our worlds will never again be divided by fear or pride. I vow that the hand which healed me shall never be forgotten, and that the name of the human who touched the queen shall echo beyond the stars." Ethan smiled faintly. "You really like dramatic speeches, don't you?" She laughed softly, the sound like silver bells in the wind. "I learned from you," she said. "Humans speak with heart." He chuckled. "Guess we do." As the suns rose higher, light bathed them both in gold and silver. The ruins behind them began to glow faintly, the shattered crystal walls repairing themselves slowly. The empire was healing, just like its queen. Lysara turned toward him again, her expression gentle. "You changed my destiny, Ethan Cole," she said. "But more than that, you changed what I believed was possible." He met her gaze, his voice steady. "And you changed what I thought it meant to be human." Together they walked down the palace steps, hand in hand, their shadows stretching across the glowing marble, merging into one. Above them, ships from 100 worlds descended, carrying leaders, warriors, and wanderers. All came to witness the impossible, a bond that had ended 1,000 years of war. And as the people of Zellara raised their hands in salute, Lysara looked at her mate and whispered the words that would be remembered forever. "This is our vow," she said, "not as queen and subject, not as alien and human, but as one." Ethan smiled, his voice quiet but strong. "Then let the stars remember it." The wind carried their words into the endless sky, and the universe listened. The queen and the human, the bond and the vow. Two hearts that healed a galaxy.